At the IMF Spring Meetings, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Olayemi Cardoso addressed concerns about declining external reserves, assuring citizens that this decrease is not due to defending the Naira, but rather standard financial obligations like debt repayments. And also, the World Bank and the African Development Bank announced a partnership to provide access to electricity for 300 million Africans by 2030. This $30 billion project will involve contributions from government, the private sector, and the World Bank and AfDB. Joining me for more on this is Muktar Mohammed, CEO, Assure Investments Limited. Thank you, Muktar, for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right, just before you come on board, I'd like us to listen to the CBN Governor.
Inflation was high and the exchange rate was under tremendous stress. And there was a crisis of confidence. And in such a situation, the biggest challenge, as far as I can see, was that of trust and the deficit in trust. It is not our intention to defend the Naira. It is not. What we're encouraging is for the markets to willing buyer, willing seller, price discovery. And ultimately, I perceive a future where central bank will really not need to intervene, okay, except in very, very unusual circumstances. As long as we have a vibrant currency market, why do we need to go in there to intervene? We don't need to. I can understand that, especially at the outset, there have been little cases where the Bureau de Change, the BDC, there was a need to get that segment going. And, you know, small amounts of money, relatively tiny amounts of money have gone into that to catalyze that happening. What you see with respect to the shifts in our reserves is the shifts that you find in any country's reserve situation, where, for example, debts are due and certain payments need to be made. They are made because that is also part of keeping your credibility intact. I wouldn't let people get too excited about this thing. All I will say is that we are looking towards ensuring that we have a market that operates on its own, willing buyer, willing seller, and price discovery. That's where we're going to. The shifts you've seen in our reserves has really, little or nothing to do with defending any Naira.
Well, there you have it. Muktar, thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I would like to start by, saying what exactly do we mean when we say we're defending the Naira? And then what do we also mean when we talk about a managed float? I'd like us to explain those two before we then delve into what the governor said.
PERPETUA, defending the Naira managed float, it all depends. For me, it's all same of same. Defending the Naira is when you think the Naira has gone below its value, then you need to come in there and make sure that it gets to that value. Managing the Naira also is still the same thing. You want it to maintain a certain equilibrium. And once it goes outside of that, you think it's overvalued, then you come in to make sure there is stability. So it depends on which way we see it. The only reason this is different from every other one is because this seems to be like what we call a float, willing buyer, willing seller. And sometimes because of the market is awash with liquidity, the willing buyer and the willing seller will have to tilt towards what the liquidity that at the price that the CBN think it should be at that time. Because when you talk about intervention, it's definitely the CBN that definitely intervene in the market. I keep saying it. There is no currency market all over any part in the world that the CBN will just sit down and watch it begin to do whatever it wants to do. So I don't know why the governor is saying that he wants a willing, he wants a market that they will not need to intervene. But I am happy that he said there might be costs, but he wants it to be real because they should be costs for you to intervene, like what they are doing now, giving the product change money for them to make sure that there is price stability, especially meeting at the retail end, which has been the main cost of why the Naira and the Naira exchange to the dollar is. So I totally agree with him that he said you don't have to intervene every time, but I think there will still be time whereby you need your CBN to intervene. But like I said, managed system is you fix a particular fixed price, and that is the price that will be. Intervention is you allow market forces, but when they go above the boundary, then you make sure you intervene with liquidity into the system to balance the market, to make sure that your currency is value as what it's supposed
All
to be.
right. I had to start with that because, after this particular speech, I saw a lot of headlines saying a lot of things, but I feel this might just be a matter of semantics. I mean, I do not think he said the CBN is not defending the Naira. He said that, I quote, "It is not our intention to defend the Naira." And then he said some other things, really. But then let's talk about, this now. I want to believe that you do not have an issue with the CBN, doing this because you've also tried to explain it and all of that. But then talking about the depleting, foreign reserves, is that something you think we should be concerned about? Is it even depleting as much as is being stated, really, when we look at it technically? Is it something to be concerned about?
It's something to be concerned about when your reserve is within 2 months, you deplete by almost $2 billion. I mean, it's huge. We're not talking about $200 million here. We're talking about $2 billion have left the reserve. So it's good that the CBN came up to tell us why we have seen that happen. We have always complained about our debt going to be a challenge, and I think finally is beginning to hit our reserve like we've always said. But what I've always thought was that even if it hit the reserve, you have an inflow because again, inflow could help stabilize the market. But unfortunately, the CBN is just saying what we all don't know that they are paying, but no details about who are we paying this debt. Today, make mention of the Eurobond. Sometime we are still going back to the market anytime soon to get Eurobond. So it's good, like you said, for credibility and integrity. I think it's good. It will attract more investors into the market to know that you can easily pay off your debt. But again, our reserve in the 7 years low, 2017 was an though the CBN governor later said that they have about $600 million that came in some 2 days ago. But we have to wait and see. That $600 million, what did it come out from? Was it inflow from sale of crude oil, non-oil oil inflow, or what? So those are details that I believe that the CBN will give us as time proceeds. But for now, it's not looking good if you have to deplete your reserve by almost $2 billion in 2 months. It's not looking good.
Okay, but looking, there are those who have tried to explain this. They're talking about the fact that we've paid some forex backlogs and then we've paid certain things, just like the CBN governor said. And they're looking at all of this. Don't you think it's okay to probably understand why we have that sort of amount? That's one. Maybe I'd like you to just talk about that in less than 30 seconds so we can move on.
Well, when you talk about that, remember that was about 7 billion. Was reduced to by 2 billion because the CBN said they couldn't pick it up with document for the other 2 billion, so we paid 5 billion, and that was not when our reserve went down. So if you add that now, 5 billion paid from 7 billion plus 2 billion, and that was 7 billion. So our reserve would have been doing above 40 something billion if not for this backlog. So if you look at it from that angle, that is healthy. Remember that we will not have to pay such a large chunk of backlog again. So, but when you look at it, the other way, paying debt servicing, which we know that was going to cover a lot of our reserves. So it's not so much cause for alarm that the CBN governor have finally came out to clarify the issue and said that we will still have inflow coming in. So, and again, I think the challenge we had was that we didn't make so much money from oil, because our quota couldn't meet it, which they said was due to technicality. So hopefully, when all these things are sorted out, the reserve will go buoyant again.
I remember earlier you talked about inflow, and I see that you're interested in, what that inflow is about. Is it non-oil export? Is it, oil export, or is it even FPI or even FDI? Why is it important to be able to, to be able to put a tab on it to say this is where this money is coming from, and what will be the implication of it coming from one place or the other?
Yeah, PERPETUA, what it means is that means we are doing things right. If it is inflow, that means let me look. Like I told you, we have inflow from four sources. So any of these sources, when this inflow is coming from any of these sources, it's good for us. Foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investment, sale of crude oil sale, and remittance from Nigeria and the diaspora. So if these inflows are coming from these four sources, then it's time to begin to be excited that means we are beginning to attract inflow. Even within 2 days, we are attracting about $600 million. That is good. So we need to know where it's coming in from. Hopefully, it's not one company paying us, giving us loan, or one international organ giving us loan. So that's why we need to know where this inflow is coming in from.
Well, that wasn't stated, and we do not have that information yet. But talking about foreign portfolio investment, there are those who have said this is hot money and it can just, go back at any point in time. What's your take on that?
Totally agree. Hot money, but again, you need hot money sometime in the short term to stabilize your reserve. So no economy in the world that does not enjoy hot money at a point. And so we need, the only challenge will be when hot money wants to leave, you have the means to help them exit. So thus far, I think from what the CBN is saying, we've attracted hot money of about I think about 2 point something billion. So hopefully they are not going to leave anytime soon, because they are they came in for through treasury through bond and treasury bills. So they have a particular time though. I think most of them are doing the 180 days tenure or 360 days tenure. So a lot of times for us to cover up so that by anytime they want to exit the market, we have enough liquidity for them to exit the market. But the challenge will come if we don't have enough liquidity at that time for exit the market. But I don't think we encounter those challenges again, because it seems to be like there's light at the end of the tunnel in terms of inflow, in terms of foreign investors. Though, like you say, the hot money are coming. But I always say something. It's the hot money that will later on become FDI. So let's make sure we do the right thing so that the hot money will want to stay here and develop the industry that they actually came in to make hot money from, because they will know that they will have a lot of opportunity there. But that can only be possible not because of monetary policy decisions only. The physical side needs to begin to work.
Right.
If we want to see the kind of results we want to see, people are predicting, then the physical side needs to come in on time.
Muktar,
Because
I'm afraid.
again,
Let's also look at other conversations that took place yesterday at the IMF Spring Meetings, and one of them would be the one on Energizing Africa. How ambitious do you think that is? Aiming to connect 300 million Africans to electricity by 2030. How realistic is this target? Given the current electrification rates and infrastructure gaps in Africa.
PERPETUA, I am not as confident as maybe as you, or maybe as those people in the meeting there, because again, we keep saying that it looked more like every time we go to this, they give us one promise or another. It's becoming a jamboree. So for me, I'm not excited about it at all. Hopefully we could see something come up in it, hopefully. But like you said in your report, I think it's very ambitious. 300 million Africans. They will be. I wonder how they want to go about it. But again, they've not given us details. I think if they want to do this, that would be mostly through clean energy, and then we are talking about solar. So hopefully that's the only way they can energize the homes in Africa, and that will involve. You see, the challenge I have with those things is that when it comes to all those issues of energizing Africa now, like I say, we have to use clean energy, and all these machineries or whatever we are going to use is going to come from them. So at the end of the day, whatever you see in terms of numbers, when it comes to the funds, are not finding their way into Africa. They are just finding their way via aid, and that is the challenge. Aid alone will not keep Africa develop. We need to begin to think of how Africa themselves can develop Africa.
All right, I want us to close now. I have about maybe two things I want to tie together. Number one, to do this, AfDB, all of them, they're talking. World Bank, AfDB, they're talking about $30 billion, and they're also expecting that government will contribute, and they're also expecting, private investors. But for private investors, really, what sort of incentives can be given to them so they can participate in this? I would like you to take that maybe in 30 seconds so we can close.
Well, for private investors, what they will need is tax bracket, tax holiday. That's what they really will need if they want to participate in that. That's what will excite them. Outside of that, I don't see what will excite them any more than that. Then secondly, again, when we see, I think government, I wonder where they want the government to get the fund from. The same IMF and World Bank, IMF was talking, and World Bank was talking about how Africans leaders have not been able to meet their obligation due to debt servicing and also due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of them have not come out of it, and you're expecting them to add up funds for such an ambitious project. I hopefully they should be able, but I don't see it happening at the time that they are thinking about it. We may have an extension of time because only when there is stability these things can happen. So for now, I keep my finger crossing, hopeful, but in one way, not too optimistic.
I guess you agree that Energizing Africa is very important. What you're just concerned about is the timing and, the source of the funding.
Definitely.
All right,
it's
thank
very
you
important
for
because that will create industrial growth, especially if we have to touch the rural areas. And then that also puts a snowball effect, especially for economy like, let me give my country, Nigeria. That means it will have a boost for non-oil exports.
All right, thank you so much, Muktar Mohammed, for your time on the show today.
My pleasure, thank you.